Today we're super lucky to have one of my, I would proudly say, my closest friends, co-conspirators in all the adventures that we come up with, Ana Lamata here with us. Ana, very well known, is a wonderful hat maker, artisan of great quality. But not only is there that facet of her, she makes beautiful art by making flowers. She makes anything that you can beautify a world in many different ways. And now she's become a pretty accomplished natural dyer and has learned a lot about that as well. Besides which, she's now expanded and has started to do pieces of art. She just finished a work with the Museum of Prado, where she made a beautiful hat, recreated a hat for Reubens. She was asked by the museum to do it because she has the knowledge of having made it exactly the way it was made back then because of her background in research. So really happy and lucky to have my dear friend Ana Lamata here today with us.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Bueno, I'm so happy, finally, to be able to do this with you, Ana, because, you know, I always say to people that life sends you the masters you need. And I've been quite lucky. I've actually had them come and knock my door, and you were one of them. It's an embarrassing story of how we met, because of course I remember, you know, seeing your work in Instagram, good old Instagram, and falling in love with that beautiful hat made out of tweed. The bowler made from tweed. And I was like, oh my God, this is so stunning. Who could have made it? And then we connected, and then you invited me, and I, embarrassingly.
You missed the date.
Missed the date. I invited twice, exactly. Which was really, really embarrassing. But you were generous and you were kind that you agreed to a third date. And we met, and it was really funny because the second time that you came to my studio and I wasn't there, and Maria met you, and when I came back, Maria was so chiding and like, you have no idea, she was amazing, you have to meet her. I'm like, I want to meet her. But I'm so glad you came, and you know, it's amazing that we've known each other, what is now?
11 years.
Gosh.
That was, I know it. It was January or February 2014. Yeah.
Right.
And you, the third time that we finally met at your place, beautiful place, the most beautiful place that was at that time in Madrid, you invited me like you usually do, like with people you don't even know, but you invite them to your adventures, and said if I wanted to make some hats for you for Pity.
For Pity, exactly.
For Florence.
For the collection, and you did, and you were, and you made these beautiful hats, and we started this. How many years? 3 years?
No, a few. Yeah.
3 or 4 years. We traveled together to the shows together, making hats together, having adventures together, having our heart broken by shops who would buy us and then not pay us together.
All sorts of. No experiences.
All sorts of experiences. I always feel very, very lucky to be surrounded by you and humans like you that I am very lucky to have. Who not only, if anything, they say that if you want to do well in life, you should surround yourself with people you look up to. And I definitely, and I know this is going to embarrass the hell out of you, but I do look up to you. I think you're my hero in so many ways, more than just not from the point of view of your desire to make things well, but like really well. Your desire to live a life well, which goes beyond just the act of making, just the way you are with yourself. So if from the childhood, were you sort of always attracted to, I want to study, I want to be a doctor? I mean, you got yourself a PhD in art history. Is that something you were very clear on?
No, I never had a vocation or on any way. No, I didn't want it to. Like my parents were doctors, both of them, but I didn't know. I like medicine. I could have been a doctor or a vet. As well. I love animals. Anything alive.
We know.
Anything alive. But I don't know, I also was interested in the humanities and art and history. So I don't feel that I made a very conscious decision. I just, I liked it, but I just happened to be there like many times, no? You're not aware of the paths that you're taking until you're already there. So when I finished my PhD, I wanted to go on with a postdoctoral research, but that didn't happen because of the economical crisis of 2008. No, so my defense was in 2010, and already the fellowship that I needed to go to the US at that time it didn't come, and it didn't come in 2010, 11, and 12. And while I was waiting for that fellowship, I started doing other things, and a friend told me, well, there is this thing in the community, in the city, no, in the city council, that they have a temporary, they can organize temporary exhibitions. So they don't have budget, as always. No, but if you have the pieces and the project, the research project, it can happen. No? So I thought, okay, I had been collecting hats. It's fair to say that I already consider something a collection when you have three of something is already a collection, whether you like it or not. It's gonna be. It's like it's showing.
Yeah, no? Showing all the promise of being a collection.
So I already had quite a few, and I had been thinking about, as a researcher, like doing it in a more organized way. So I thought, okay, from the 1860s to the 1960s, it's a century that is so telling in the way we wear, like the clothing and the living. That's also as well the years, more or less. It was more 1900s, 1896 to 1930s was where my PhD was focused. So it was more or less that same time, and it's really. It was a really amazing, like so groundbreaking, so like the world changed completely.
Yes.
In a couple of decades. All things that were thought, no, considered, understood to be in a certain way, they weren't anymore. No, you had like the discovery of X-rays, which was what I focused on. I
loved your book. I thought I talk about it so many times. You know, that it was like how the discovery of X-rays affects modern art. Yeah. That was fascinating.
Yeah, right? I mean, it was unavoidable because it transformed the way people perceived and reflected upon reality. No, reality wasn't anymore just a epidermical thing. It was built of so many layers, and so many layers that you don't see, but they are there. Even if you don't know. Right. You can't see them. No, so this kind of what you see is not all that it is. No, was made evident by the discovery of X-rays, and of course, because it was in all, not only scientific publications, but periodicals like regular newspapers. It was the first global discovery. No, it was all over the world in a matter of days, weeks, no? and available to all the public. And there were very keen at that time newspapers with caricatures, no, cartoons.
Yeah, cartoons.
So they had these crazy and very, very funny cartoons on how X-rays. Now you need underwear in LED, no, because or something like that. Because I'm gonna be able to read your thoughts, no, and all these things. Yeah. No, see across a wall and all these things. No. It was very funny. So, of course, those artists, I was lucky enough to find, but it was just a matter of taking the time to search, no? Because it was unavoidable that they made specific reference to that discovery. So, from Guillaume Apollinaire to Pablo Picasso, Giorgio De Chirico, Francis Picabia, like one of the most interesting artists for me were talking about that. No, so it was really great fun and a pain, as any research of this size, or it ends up being something that you enjoy, but it's also hard. So it was extraordinary how this a discovery like X-rays, but also photography in those same years. 1896 is the discovery of X-rays. 1830s is the photography. But then aviation as well.
Oh my God, when you think about it, the world changed.
Completely. Then quantum physics as well, no?
Exactly.
In the 1900s as well. So the world was completely different.
Yeah.
And when I was researching for this exhibition project on the history of hats, you could see as well in how people were dressing, no, their clothes, their hats is very funny because they start growing from the 1860s. They're kind of small, like tilting on top of your head, but then they start growing. 1890s. There are lots of cartoons about this as well, like people having to cut the frames of the door to let a lady
walk through.
Or going to the opera, and as well not being able to see anything because this lady had this huge hat full of flowers or birds or whatever. So yeah, and then 1910s, 20s, they
become small again.
Cloche, and clothes change because society has changed, and now it's the modern world suddenly. Yeah, I don't know if it's maybe nowadays it would be a path not so common, because you usually go to a design university or to get a design degree or something, or in fashion, and that's not my background. So my background is in art history, and when I started making hats, I didn't go to a school. I had the fortune of meeting a wonderful person and teacher who is Rose Cory.
But I do want to point out that it's not your fortune. You actually sought her out.
Well,
because you did apply to the traditional, to the schools, and most of them accepted you. Why would they not? A doctor of art history is applying to study, and you decided to do it another way, right?
Yeah, it's true. It's true that when I went to London, because I looked for for somewhere to learn here in Spain, I couldn't find. So I thought, okay, the UK would be the best first choice because their tradition, because their royal house has maintain or kept that regular use for hats, and so they are appreciated by the wider public. They are used, and so I went there, and it's true, I still had the prejudice of going to a school. So after doing my PhD in art history, I thought, okay, maybe I found that there were a couple of masters on millinery, which means hat maker, but we could go there all the time. It's but so I thought, okay, that could be interesting. But then, as I had when I went there to get past had the interviews, I realized that there wasn't an emphasis on the making, and I didn't even know who the teachers, only the head faculty, but not the rest of the teachers that were going to teach me. And I didn't have the educational program. I thought, okay, this is a huge investment. In fact, I didn't have that money. It was because during the last years, the system had changed. So as a PhD, I had a higher degree than the masters they were giving. So I was going to pay for me and all my friends.
I had no idea, really. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So as a PhD, you'd pay more than someone coming up?
You don't need it.
You don't need it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
No,
wow.
Apparently.
Okay. Yeah.
So, I guess so. So the amount was prohibited for.
And this is, we're talking about a school like Central St. Martin's
Yes, and the Royal
like some of the best schools in terms of design and art there are.
Yeah.
They accept you.
Yeah,
They show you go there. Show me who's going to teach me.
Yeah.
And you're not impressed.
Well, you don't know.
Oh,
You don't
wow.
know. So
Okay.
when I was there, I didn't know. I wasn't given the names of the people who were going to teach me. So at that time, I had already searched for one of the things or the two things that I learned with my master in art history, Angel Gonzalez, was to go to the sources and to have a criteria, a critical thinking. No,
Wow.
your own
two very, very precious things that we do not have anymore. Unfortunately, a scarcity of them in the world right now. Yes.
So for me, go to the sources in that sense meant, or I thought that it could be someone who had a royal warrant. So someone with a career working for the royal house. No, so I found 3 people at that time, but one of them was already retired in the countryside. Mary O'Regan, I couldn't reach. I knew she was in London, but I couldn't reach her. And then Rose Cory, who I wrote to an email, and she didn't read her emails, but her daughter did. So I had a reply, and I ended up going to learn with her. And after having tried to know, or being or thinking about considering to go to one of these schools, art schools, to make a millinery master or master in millinery, then I thought, okay, I will go back and I'll make my own teaching program.
Wow.
With what I already knew, I had a vague but fairly reasonable idea of what were the essential techniques that I should know. No, like to be able to sew straw, block felt, make fabric over hats, flowers, turbans, draping turbans. Series of techniques, no? So I made this a draft of
a program for you. Wow.
And I went back to her and I told her if I could stay for longer, and she agreed. So I started learning all these things, beginning from the tools. So the first thing was to make your own head to work on, no, and your own blocks. Because a block, like a hat, is the cast of the block it was made on.
Right.
The majority of times, no, for the most part, you see hats that they all look the same because they tend to be made like with aluminum presses, no, so like waffles or something.
Industrially, just all of it.
Yeah, small, medium, and large, but it's the same shape, no. So, but traditionally they were made in wood blocks, in wood. And in this area, I also had the luck of meeting the master hat block maker who worked for Rose and for many other artisans, and then couture houses.
But that's where I think, like, you know, what you just said before, like your master, Angel, made you think about, like, and most people are just looking for a degree. They're just looking for a stamp, right? They're just looking, I passed out from St. Martin's, or, you know, that becomes like a brand nearly in education. Yeah. What I love about, and I think to the point of what we talk about so many times, you and I, that you really took charge of your own education. Yeah. You said, no, I want to go to the best. I will make my program, because obviously Rose was not running an academy. No. You decided you convinced her to teach you in a specific manner. You organized your way of, and that to me is such a, you know, I tell that to my students all the time, because we are really today in a world where this format of education that is so industrial, where you walk away with a piece of paper that says so-and-so brand, I'm going to call the university a brand, gave you this label, and that now it seems like you know. And how many times have you and I come across people who are from that brand, but the knowledge is so superficial because that's what it's become, just like in anything else. And the fact that, you keep using the word, I was lucky, I would push you back on that and I would say, it's not just luck, you really sought it out, you did the hard work.
Yeah.
And also took a risk.
Yeah, but I also have to say, we would have to admit that it wasn't my first path. So I already had that traditional, I had my degree. So it wasn't something that I was missing. So I was free in that sense, like I understand kids nowadays that they still feel the pressure, the need. They don't know any. They don't have. They don't see many other options. That's what should happen. That to show that there are other options from the beginning. And I guess that's getting more and more clear as well in these last few years because of technology and the way world changes.
Well, we were talking about and we were talking about specifically your thesis when you did your doctorate degree. There's so much to do about this change that happened with technology, really, because X-ray is a technology, and what change it brought about, not only just in the scientific world, but actually in the art world and in so many ways in which we live our lives, and in how it really changed society in many ways. I feel like something similar maybe is happening right now. We're not aware of it, when it's happening, of how this is going to fundamentally change who we are, how we perceive ourselves, the art world as well. So that's why, to me, it's so, I always tell people you should read Anna's book because it's so relevant now. It's a big, thick book. You need patience, but you probably have to make TikTok videos.
For all good things, you need patience. That's another thing.
Yes, there you go.
All good things. Not that my book is any good. I don't recommend the reading to anyone unless you have.
But it's fascinating. But it's fascinating because it makes that link between the world of technology, of science, to the world of art, and how interlinked we are as groups of humans who we think we have nothing in common. Even that world is so interlinked, the world of art to the world of science and technology.
Totally. And just it's a reflection on how the way you perceive the world is so relative and so bound for all your prejudices and then the technologies of vision. That's also the way you're thinking that are available to you at that time, at this moment of history or whatever.
Yeah. And also for me, it's also interesting that you take a career path. I mean, I don't know if it was a career path or just you, like you said earlier, you said, I walk towards art history. I didn't have a passion for anything, but I ended up studying art history, and then I started doing my doctorate. And then from there, you go into hats. I mean, not the very practical thing, like in a world where people are wearing less and less hats. Why hats, Anna? What made you go into?
They're just beautiful objects.
Yeah, they are. I mean, I have to admit it. I love hats.
Yeah. No, but I mean, like hats in particular, because it's such a small space, no? Your head when you look to somebody, no? But clothing in general, the eloquence of clothing, no? That it tells so many things. It's so telling about who you are in this time and your personality, your own personality. So yeah, I don't know. I found them very, very transformative, very, it's a beautiful object.
They are transformative. I feel it every time I put on a hat.
Yeah.
I do, I really, and I mean, it's funny, I have to admit, I was fascinated with hats before I met you. I come from a culture where hat wearing of some sort of a thing on your head is very typical, more for men than women. And because I was always such a, trying to be contrarian, I would wear men's turbans in India when it wasn't, for women. It was always fascinating me, but it truly is meeting you that I was able to understand the depth of what that whole thing is to even make a hat. Like I've seen you struggle to find good raw materials.
Yes.
The research I've seen you do, I mean, I remember you scouring all of, there was wonderful story about you negotiating with some woman who was sitting on some stalk of some old, right?
Yeah.
Old, was it Parabuntal, which she didn't even probably care about, but you knew exactly what it was and you were so desperate to get it. You have really like materials that matter to you. Like it's not just the superficiality of what the hat looks like. You really start from what's the material.
Yeah. What's the material, and for me it's the people who make those materials. No? Like with felt, there's not so much trouble because I have the chance to work with some people in Portugal who make in Europe, I think, the best quality felt for hats, FEPSA, and but in terms of straw, that's really that's very sad. That's very sad, very worrying, because it's a loss of heritage, of human heritage. Like we've been weaving since, at least there is the first reference that we have in an object is the Venus de Willendorf. So that's 25,000 years ago.
Wow.
That we've been weaving things, some for the hair. Because that girl, that woman is wearing a hat. That's not her hair, because the way it's made is showing the coils. So it's a woven thing that she's wearing. And then other Venus, like the Les Pouches, for example, that's another French one, that's showing a skirt as well. The beginnings of weaving fibers, vegetable fibers, no? It's a very beautiful and funny skirt, I always find, because it only when you see it, it's like she's naked because she's only covering her ass. Or her back.
I love it.
Yeah, so it's half a skirt. But you know, it's true that when you sit down, when you're cold, like
that's where you need to cover.
Yeah. So, but yeah, those little figurines, 25,000 years old. So that's when we started weaving, and from there we came to all this. The peak was in the 1920s, I think. No, as far as I know, it was in the 1920s, like for weaving and selling, and then it just started declining in the 30s, and almost like there are still people weaving those fibers. But they, like you can tell as well, and people like masters. Those masters are dying,
yes.
or are dead already.
Yes.
And because there was no much of a demand, the quality came down dramatically. And if that quality that is demanded is less, you're not gonna get better. No, because people are wanting to pay something, and that something means that you have to weave that in maybe one day or whatever. When a good hat, like one of these fine examples that I have from the 1930s, buntal from the Philippines, super dense and super homogeneous with fibers so thin, no,
and shiny,
and shiny,
gorgeous.
It looks. I have some that I have an archive. I have some pieces that quite some hundreds, but some I use. But some, the finest, I would never use. I keep them as an archive of what we were able to do.
Yeah.
And
I can see you putting up a museum. I know that would happen at one point because you have
vegetable fibers.
Yeah, totally. I could see that.
Or headwear.
But also I think what I learned from you, which I thought was really fascinating, because I mean, coming from the outside, I know the world of clothing. I know how ready-made clothes, industrial clothing has done what it has done to the quality of the way we make clothes or the way people perceive themselves, and what we sell. We sell a lot, but we make really bad quality. And the similar thing happened in hats, right? It was only when I met you that I realized, oh my God, there are no two heads alike.
Yeah.
And then you've got this incredible piece of equipment. And it was that was something that really blew my mind. I didn't know that
Yeah.
that, you know, every single shape. Of course, it makes sense now that I know it.
Of course, we are unique. You knew it for, like, you had thought about it
In my body,
bodies.
of course.
Yeah,
Yes.
each body
is
each
so
each
different.
of our bodies is different, and when you go somewhere and have something that it's industrially made, it may fit you, but it probably won't.
Don't.
And you adapt to it.
Exactly.
But traditionally, when cloth was something of value, of great value, because the fibers were grown and people knew that they have been grown in a certain way, and it took time and skill from those who made those fibers and then wove them and then dyed them and then make those clothes. So you made a pair of pants or a jacket or a coat like once a year or every few years. No, like it was an investment for the whole chain of value, as I love that you call it, no, because it is added value. Yes, in those days, clothes were made to your measure.
Exactly.
No? So in the this little guy here, it's a conformateur that was made in the 19th century, just from the 1800s to the 1850s.
Okay.
And it's a phrenological studies tool. But
so it has a questionable background.
has some dark beginnings, but it's great because in those years, it's true that in the 19th century, hats tended to be at the beginning of the century tended to be in general more sturdy, no, like very stiffened, very hard. In fact, for example, the bowler, one of the the beginnings was it was made as a hat for the people who took care of the land of a guy.
Okay.
So it was for riding horses, no, and stuff, and it was more like a helmet. So it needed to be sturdy, hard. So they were pretty stiff. So if you have some of those, you really need it to fit your head, because if not, it's
super uncomfortable.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to put it in, or if you put it in, but if your head is elongated, you're going to make tension in some points, and then you have gaps here. So this tool gives you like the
perfect shape of the head.
With this little pins, no? It will adapt to the shape of your head. And
so when someone comes to you to get a hat made, because I always recommend everyone to do that because it's such a beautiful exercise.
It's an experience.
It truly is.
Am I going to be tortured?
So you measure their head and you make sure that you have the shape right.
So this thing would give you, like, these are my jíbaro heads.
Wow.
When people come home, you would get...
like a shoemaker. Of course, it makes perfect sense. Like I do for my clients.
Exactly.
Their measurement, their pattern.
You make the pattern, the last, and then you have this other little tool, the formillon, which will get your miniature, the miniature of your head, and then you
fix the size,
the outer ring,
and
after, and I block your hat first on the regular block, and then a second time with your block. So in fact, it would be like a shoe made, a viscose shoe, like made with your last.
Right. The other thing I also keep telling people, is also something you've educated me on, the importance of hats. Even like as human beings, we lose heat, or that's the part of our head that gets hot the fastest. So how important the hats are in the summer, how important they are in the winter, just like a good pair of shoes, right? It's really important for your body.
It's a functional item.
Temperature, circulation.
We've been using them, as we were talking about, for 25,000 years. For certain in antiquity, no? In Greek, you have the pileus, and you have these different types of hats for, they were mainly for travelers, for people who were traveling, no?
Right.
So you need brims, but then, they started evolving, and you had all sorts of hats. Yeah, they have been accompanying us.
I still remember the one piece that I was lucky enough to get from you. And I always tell people the story, you bought this vintage straw. It was terribly stitched. You unstitched the whole thing.
I've done that a few times.
You then restitched it into this beautiful, you actually wove it with metal.
Oh, yeah.
And you gave it this gorgeous structure. I think every time I've worn that hat, I mean, just people, I feel like I'm someone special. It puts a special halo on my head. But it just fascinates everyone because you don't see work like that anymore because it truly is it's an object, it's a sculpture on your head. It's just how it makes me feel. It's just one of the most beautiful. So, I mean, you've not only have you done this traditional hat making, but you're always pushing yourself to go into these other. I remember also during Corona when you came to me with a video that you've been watching of an Indian woman in Hindi speaking in Shagufta and doing embroidery. And you wanted to learn that way of embroidery.
I learned in Hindi.
Hindi.
She spoke a couple of words here and there in English, but she embroidered so beautifully that I don't know how to embroider. I just
You do. I have that piece. I've worn that piece. It is stunning. You learned how to embroider with wool, and it was just the most gorgeous piece of hat that I wore many times. And every time I've worn it, everyone's like, "Oh my God, that is a piece of art." So I also have loved to watch that. For you, it's a work in progress. I've never seen you say, "I'm done. I know this really well." You're always pushing boundaries.
There are so many things to be learned, so many techniques, and so I think that's an essential part of anyone. Like if you lose your curiosity, which is inherent to you, if you don't have it or you don't find it, if you don't find it, keep searching because it's there.
Keep trying.
It's there. But sometimes, circumstances, life, traditional education, whatever, you lose contact with that for different reasons. But curiosity is an essential part of us, and this. What's that? Or
Let me try. What made you then go into? I remember the thing that have watched you go through for many things, but one of the things that fascinates me is, you started doing natural dye.
Yeah.
That's something. I guess it came from that you were so frustrated that you only had the raw material in a certain color, and everything that was in other colors was horribly dyed. I remember having that conversation. It was like terribly dyed or dyed with, huge amount of chemicals, and that was frustrating you. And so you're like, I'm not just going to complain about this. I'm going to go now learn to be a natural dyer. And you've done it, I think, a little bit before COVID, and then you just went into during COVID.
So I had researching, because a little bit of this, having hoarding straw, beautifully woven straw. That, in part, I think, had survived because the awful colors. They had dyed them.
Nobody wanted them, so they were there.
So they were still there. Some Baku, some Parabuntal, and then also for making flowers. I thought, how nice would it be to make flowers dyed with flowers. So I had been looking for some material, a DVD, which is what century is that from? But Michel Garcia, who is a master dyer, he's old school like we are, and he had a DVD. So I bought his DVD, a series of DVDs and books and stuff. So because we were just back from XTANT from Mexico, and just going to get locked down, and I thought, this is my time, So I started experimenting, and again, it's a lot of about that. You have the templates, like that a teacher can give you or books can give you, But then it's up to you. It's up to you to explore, to fail, and to learn. Because even if you read it, like the other day, I'm like, I forgot about this. Like logwood bleeds. If you leave it a lot of time in the dye bath, it will lose the color.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah. So I was dyeing a hat with some oak and logwood, and the felt was fine, but the silk for the lining, I left it I thought it was going to get stronger, but not. The
Color
purple
went
from
back.
so
Oh,
it's more
wow.
brownish. And I thought,
Okay.
okay, yeah, I forgot that if I leave it unattended, like each of them is different. Each plant is different. Each dye is different. So some will gain from being left there for a long time. They will keep on soaking, but others not.
I'm not. Okay.
And logwood is one of those.
Oh, how interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, just like, for example, the hat I'm wearing,
Yeah.
you've dyed this,
Yeah, that's
no?
chestnut.
It's chestnut.
Yeah.
And what I love it, you also like all the details, like you've dyed the,
everything is botanically dyed.
Yeah, even the
So-
lining,
Yeah.
this silk, which is a great story.
Yeah, it's silk, some silks from my family, my mom's family,
Right.
who had this silk factory, and they preserved. No, they kept all these silk rolls in my grandmother's house in Liria, in Valencia, in the east of Spain. And when I started making hats, my mom said, "Let's go." Yeah.
I love it. It all came to you, right? It all comes to you.
Yeah.
What is it that you need?
And at the beginning, I thought, I wish they had more colors, because most of it was silk brocade, gorgeous, and satin silks like double this weight. You don't find it
anymore, for sure.
And for brides.
Of course.
And I thought, okay, this I'm never going to use, because you when a bride comes to you to make some piece, it's never the same white.
Of course.
But then I started botanically dyeing, and I was like, wow, I wish they were all white.
No.
Now
It's perfect.
You get such beautiful colors that they are unmatched by any synthetic dye.
I totally agree.
Whenever I take something from the pot, and when it dries, because it's going to change after the drying, it's like, wow.
I can even tell you that it feels different. Like, you dyed for me a piece of fabric that I made into a skirt that I wear as an underskirt.
Yeah.
And it is just the most beautiful gold. I mean, I don't know how to, oak. Oh my God. And every time I wear it, I cannot describe to people what it feels like. I don't know how much of it is suggestive that I had to beg you to do that, because you were like a little bit worried. Oh, it's not, you're quite a perfectionist, quite the opposite of me. And I'm like, please, Anna. And you're like, oh, I don't know if it's going to, because it's a lot of fabric. It's true.
Yeah.
But it came out.
And my installations, my setting, it's small. So even if I have 20 liters pots, 12 to 20 liters pot, that's not too much. That's not very big for dyeing garments. For the silk lining for a hat, it's okay. And for a felt hat, it's okay.
I'm glad I was persistent and you made it. It's one of my favorite pieces of clothing. Every time I travel, I take it with me, because it feels it just adds the, I don't know, it just gives me light. It makes me feel good.
It's quite magical. Like somewhere I read that apparently synthetic dyes, because they are regular at a molecular level, they reflect light flat.
Makes sense.
But botanical dyes are irregular at a molecular level, so they reflect light irregularly. So there is a depth and a vibrancy.
Makes perfect sense.
That you don't find this indigo. For the cornflower, no.
And then of course,
well, it's indigo and logwood. I have to say that I painted with logwood
on top of it. I mean, the wonderful story of also when you started to make the flowers. I remember. There's a client, I mean, we share the studio, so sometimes you have, share the studio. We use this place sometimes to show, because you work out of your home. And I remember this client who bought this beautiful flower. It was an amapola, a poppy. And I was like trying to be funny, and I wrapped it like a little flower, to give someone. And she went home, she took a bath, and she left the flower on the table. And the girl who cleans her home came and basically took a pot of water and cut the flower and put it in there. And she came crying to me the next day. I was like, oh my God. And I just couldn't, to me, it was such, I couldn't laugh enough.
It's a great compliment.
It's a great compliment.
I don't know how she got it.
Because this is wire. But it just shows how, not used to we are. That and your work it's like a work of art. To me, this is nature. I mean, I look at this and my instinct is to smell
Arturo
it.
smells them.
Of course, because it's so real.
Yeah.
And I feel like I agree with you that whenever I see something that is made with, with a dye that's synthetic, I mean, I say that about clothes.
Yeah.
It is just feels different. It looks different. And it makes sense what you're saying.
Yeah.
That it's the molecules that reflect differently. Yeah. And most of them, I'm sure that happens to you as well. So many people say to me, "Oh my God, your clothes, they're natural dye. Will they last?" And I'm like, did you go to any of the museums? All that is natural dye, right?
Exactly. Until the 1836 or something, it was the first synthetic. It's also tricky to talk about synthetic or not synthetic because, like, laboratory made.
Yes.
Because the Egyptians and the Mayas, they made synthetic colors in the sense that they were not naturally there as that. They made compounds.
Mixed, exactly.
Yeah, and they cooked them to get another thing.
Right.
So, well, yes, it wasn't just cooked like that. But yeah, it's only since the second half of the 19th century, like 100 years ago, and look at the mess we've made.
Look at the mess we've made.
With all the synthetic dyes all over the world, like...
It's dramatic.
It's dramatic.
It is dramatic.
It's dramatic. We're running out of water.
Coming to that, where the museum, like, there's no one who has that knowledge, or very few people have the knowledge. That's why the Museum de Prado, a curator from there, contacts you to make that beautiful installation, which I was so proud to see your work in the Museo de Prado.
Me too. Me too. In fact, I like him. He's super nice, and I was delighted at the idea, of making a hat. But I like to say that I didn't make it for Alejandro Vergara. I made it for Reubens.
Of course.
But yeah, because in fact, at the beginning I was. It's not that I was worried, but soon I realized that that's the way I work. So it's not that I'm going to change a lot. The thing that is going to be different is just that in those days, like we were recreating a hat he's wearing in a self-portrait from 1623. He painted a few of them as during his lifetime.
He was into selfies, obviously.
Yes, I mean he was a superstar. But it's funny how as time passes through his life, hats are getting bigger. Dreams are getting bigger. No, it's like, however, he did his hats must haven't seemed like fancy enough to Charles I, because when he went to the UK to work for the king as an ambassador through Isabel Clara Eugenia and Philip IV here, Charles I gave him a diamond-studded hat band.
Oh, wow.
For the hat.
Okay.
Yeah, and a few other things as a ring and a...
But also, like, I remember you did all...
You must have thought it wasn't fancy enough. So do you have a diamond?
Just to make sure. But also, you did all that research about the fact that back then, the material that was used to dye was Palo campeche, which is,
yeah, of course.
Not
like,
any black.
Not any black, no. We had, like, he working for the Spanish royal house. He was wearing the black from the Palo campeche. No, Palo campeche is it's a bay in Mexico, and that's where these trees are native from. So before that, the blacks that we were able to make to dye here in Europe were whether from just lots of tannin, whether it's from oak, from gallnuts, which are the ones that are heavier in tannin regarding the weight, or an iron acetate, or
rusty
sulfate.
nails.
Whatever, and some acid, or over dyeing yellow, blue, and red.
And getting to the black. Wow.
You get close to a black.
Yeah.
But you don't get a very like a black. It's more like a gray. It's a nice gray, but then with the Palo campeche, that naturally gives you a very deep purple. It changes as well. It's very sensitive to the pH, like many of them are, but it gives you a very dark purple. And then if you over dye, you may have to be. I dyed it several times. No, like Palo campeche, oak galls and iron. Palo campeche, oak galls and iron.
And you get the end result.
A black that it's what was called in the Spanish court ala de cuervo, like crow's wing,
okay.
because it has a purplish, bluish shine. That black, no, it's
that black also became very famous and powerful for Spain as a country because we were the only ones who had that black, access to that black. And it was considered to be the black of luxury, right, back then, because everyone in the court would wear that black. Of access to that black is so hard. Which is another thing about how color and things.
Color
and
culture, and clothing and culture, no,
and power.
Maybe some people might think that in those days, no, when you see all those portraits of Philip II and his daughters and wearing black, maybe that was a sign of austerity or something, and no, it was a sign of luxury.
They were the only ones who could afford it.
Exactly.
No, it's fascinating how interlinked history, especially with clothing and color. I find it, I wish we would teach more of that in universities and school. And now that you're going into this other aspect of you, where you're exploring the art world, I know you're not, you don't, it tires you out because of your own history with having studied it. But I find it really interesting because you are such a, you're at the, how do you define Ana Lamata? Artist, artisan. We better not. Researcher, academia. There's so many aspects of you. And that's what I find so interesting and fascinating is because, you are, the way you've chosen your career path, whatever you want to call it, career. I don't even think of you having made that choice. Your curiosity path, right?
Yeah. I would say that you are explorers. Explorers and makers.
Yeah.
So I like to explore and to make.
And I love what you just taught me today. I didn't know about this. The poetry is comes from maker.
Making.
I've always my name means poetry. I've always pretended or tried to write poetry. Words are really important to me. I'm a maker, but it makes perfect sense because words are so powerful. Right? What we say, how we say them, there's such power to that because we create the world. Even in the Bible, what came first? It was the word, apparently. There was light, but there was word.
No, but definitely words define your world, the way you think, the words that are available to you. That's why, are you like all your thoughts are going to be compressed in 100? I don't even know how many characters because I don't use
Twitter.
I didn't
X, I'm sorry, it's called X now.
Yeah, but well, you better have more words, like the wider your vocabulary, the freer, no, the more nuanced that you are. No, you are not just well or bad or
emojis.
Yeah, you are very complex, and that complexity, yes, maybe we should put that in value, no?
Right. And what would you say, like right now, with the, you're one of my people. I say that because not only because you're one of my closest friends, but you're one of my people in that you are a positive, thinker in the sense that you always look at a situation and try to find the good. What do you feel right now where the world is, where everything seems so dark and negative? And, and going back to all that you read from a time of human history when there was that moment many years ago, hundreds of years ago, where human beings, everything changed. And we went through a very good time, but also a very dark time. Seems like we are in a very similar situation once again. What makes you, or what do you feel positive about right now? And where do you feel like you want to put your energy?
I will always be positive because I think in the long run, we tend to focus on very much like a very narrow range of years or time, but in the long run, we are much better than 200 years ago, 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago. Like we wouldn't have had a chance. I would have died like many, many times before I was 40, like from infections, diseases of all sorts, war, somebody beheading you for whatever reason.
And as a woman?
Hanging, even more, no?
As a woman, no chance.
Yeah, so you have to be positive. We are much
Yes.
better, and circumstances, but we have to strive for them to be better because they can. They can. Nowadays we have the resources and the technology for everybody. Like no one in this world being hungry. No one having not access to the medicines that they need. No, we have the resources for that. So we have to demand that they are repartidos, no?
Yeah.
No?
Equally, that we're as and I also feel like the one
that it
thing
doesn't matter where you're born
Exactly.
or who you are.
Yeah.
You have the same rights, and we are like in all social movements around history. Like you unite, and if we all ask for our rights, which are beyond frontiers, beyond borders, no. I ask for the same for you that live in the other corner of the world. No, we should not forget. It's not that you realize. It's don't forget that we are brothers.
Yes. And are you feeling? I am feeling very positive. And I always sometimes I feel like a crazy person, but then I'm so glad to be surrounded by crazy humans like you, that it feels like there is a crack. When things are very dark, they always say, there's a beautiful poem, I think it was by Rose Cory. It was about when everything is very dark, and then you push hard enough, it's the moment of birth. But you have to push because it won't come without the push.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're in that really beautiful moment, a hard moment, however you want to describe it, of push.
You always
we
have
need
to
to push.
To
Yes.
grow.
Yes.
To grow, a plant pushes.
Yes. Yes.
No, you always have to push and to work. It's all anything. Again, we go back again to the same things. No, it's about patience and hard work. It's not things done like, well, yeah, rain falls on you, but for that rain to fall on you, it took millions of years for that atmosphere to be there, for the humidity, for the circle of water. Like it's some things seem that they are just there. No. For that to happen,
A lot happened.
A lot happened before. No, so for us, it's the same. You have to work on whatever you want. No, like anybody, not to be good at anything should work.
Yeah, I am super excited. As always, whenever I talk to you, my energy levels go up, and I'm also
feed each other.
Yes, and I'm also super excited about this next phase that we're going into with XTANT, as I was talking to you earlier, to go into education, to go into, expanding what we've been building together. I just feel like it's such a good moment. And we are, with your way, and you to me are such a fundamental part of this, because you so beautifully have lived it, having been through, having done the traditional path, then going and choosing your line, and then not enough, I'm going further, and then coming and building with us every year. So I find I'm grateful to have you in my life.
Me too. Yeah, it's.
Thank you, Ana Lamata.
Hi. I don't drop the water.